Hey there, fellow seekers of knowledge. Today, let's embark on a journey through the depths of a profound truth, one that reverberates through history and speaks volumes about our moral obligations in the face of injustice. As we gather here, I'm reminded of the timeless words of Martin Luther King Jr., a beacon of hope and resilience in the fight for equality and justice. He once said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Think about that for a moment. It's not the hateful rhetoric of adversaries that leaves an indelible mark on our souls. Rather, it's the deafening silence of those closest to us, the friends who choose to remain silent in moments of moral reckoning. But why does this matter, you might ask? Well, my friends, it matters because it forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that silence is not neutral. It's complicit. It's a tacit endorsement of the status quo, a betrayal of our shared humanity. Now, you might be wondering how this applies to our lives today in the hustle and bustle of modern society, and that's precisely what we're here to explore. You see, in a world inundated with noise, from the endless chatter on social media to the relentless cacophony of news cycles, it's easy to become desensitized to the injustices that unfold before our very eyes. It's easy to convince ourselves that our silence is inconsequential, that speaking out won't make a difference. But here's the thing, every voice matters. Every act of courage, no matter how small, sends ripples of change cascading through the fabric of society. So, as we delve deeper into this topic, I urge you to reflect on your own journey. Have there been moments when you chose silence over speaking out? What were the consequences of that decision? But more importantly, I want you to recognize the immense power that lies within your voice, the power to challenge injustice, to uplift the marginalized, and to shape the world into a more just and equitable place for all. So, my friends, let's lean into the discomfort. Let's break the silence and amplify our voices for change. Together, we can rewrite the narrative of history and build a future where justice and compassion reign supreme. Are you ready to join me on this journey? Now, let's unpack the profound implications embedded within Martin Luther King Jr.'s poignant words. At its core, this quote serves as a stark reminder of the moral imperative to speak out against injustice, to challenge the prevailing currents of apathy and indifference that threaten to engulf our collective conscience. To truly grasp the significance of this statement, we must first understand the dynamics of silence. Silence, in this context, is not merely the absence of sound, but rather a deliberate choice. A choice to remain passive in the face of wrongdoing, to turn a blind eye to the suffering of others. It's a choice that reverberates with consequences far beyond the immediate moment, shaping the course of history and leaving an indelible mark on the fabric of society. But why does the silence of our friends weigh heavier on our hearts than the vitriol of our enemies? The answer lies in the profound sense of betrayal that accompanies such silence. Our friends, those whom we trust and rely on, possess a unique power to influence our perceptions and shape our actions. When they choose to remain silent in moments of moral crisis, it strikes at the very core of our shared humanity, shaking the foundations of trust and solidarity upon which our relationships are built. Moreover, the silence of our friends serves to perpetuate the cycle of injustice, allowing oppressive systems to thrive unchecked. It lends legitimacy to the status quo, reinforcing the notion that speaking out is futile and that change is an unattainable dream. In this way, silence becomes complicity, a tacit endorsement of the very injustices we claim to abhor. But perhaps what is most insidious about the silence of our friends is its insidious nature. It operates not through overt acts of oppression, but through subtle acts of omission, through the quiet acquiescence that whispers, "This is not my problem. I will not get involved." It is this silence, born out of fear or complacency, that poses the greatest threat to our collective progress. Now, you might be wondering how this analysis applies to our lives today. Well, consider the myriad injustices that pervade our society. The systemic racism that disproportionately impacts communities of color, the gender inequality that persists in boardrooms and classrooms alike, the economic disparities that consign millions to lives of poverty and despair. In each of these instances, the silence of our friends serves as a barrier to meaningful change, perpetuating the very injustices we claim to abhor. But amidst this bleak landscape, there is hope. For as Martin Luther King Jr. reminds us, the power to effect change lies within each of us. It lies in our willingness to break the silence, to speak out against injustice, even when it is uncomfortable or unpopular. It lies in our ability to amplify the voices of the marginalized, to stand in solidarity with those who have been silenced by systems of oppression. So, my friends, let us heed the call to action embedded within these profound words. Let us refuse to be silent bystanders in the face of injustice. Let us raise our voices in solidarity with the oppressed and downtrodden, knowing that our collective action has the power to reshape the world into a more just and equitable place for all. Are you ready to break the silence? The journey begins with a single word, a single act of courage. Let us embark on this journey together, knowing that the future of our society depends on our willingness to speak truth to power and to stand on the side of justice. History serves as a poignant testament to the power of silence and its profound implications for the course of human events. Time and again, we witness how the silence of allies has allowed injustice to fester and flourish, while the courageous voices of those who refuse to remain silent have sparked movements for change that reverberate through the annals of time. Consider, for example, the civil rights movements of the 20th century, which sought to dismantle the entrenched systems of racial oppression that plagued societies around the world. In the face of rampant discrimination and violence, the silence of many who could have made a difference spoke volumes. Friends, neighbors, and even colleagues chose to turn a blind eye to the suffering of their fellow human beings, allowing the forces of bigotry and hatred to gain a foothold in communities across the globe. Yet, amidst this sea of silence, there emerged individuals whose voices rang out like clarion calls for justice. Rosa Parks, a humble seamstress from Montgomery, Alabama, refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus, igniting a firestorm of resistance that would ultimately lead to the desegregation of public transportation in the United States. Her act of defiance, coupled with the unwavering support of allies who refused to remain silent, galvanized a movement that would forever alter the course of history. Similarly, in apartheid-era South Africa, the silence of the international community threatened to prolong the suffering of millions of oppressed individuals living under the brutal yoke of racial segregation. But amidst this deafening silence, there arose voices of dissent, voices like that of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who tirelessly campaigned for the imposition of economic sanctions against the apartheid regime and the release of political prisoners. His steadfast refusal to remain silent in the face of injustice inspired countless others to join the struggle for freedom and equality, ultimately leading to the dismantling of apartheid and the establishment of a democratic South Africa. Yet, while these examples serve as powerful reminders of the transformative potential of speaking out against injustice, they also underscore the immense challenges that confront those who choose to break the silence. In many cases, individuals who dare to challenge the status quo are met with fierce resistance, facing ostracism, persecution, and even violence at the hands of those who seek to maintain their grip on power. But despite these obstacles, the legacy of those who refuse to remain silent endures as a beacon of hope for future generations. Their courage serves as a reminder that the arc of history bends towards justice, propelled forward by the collective efforts of ordinary individuals who dare to dream of a better world. So, my friends, as we reflect on these examples from history, let us heed the lessons they impart. Let us recognize the profound impact that our words and actions, or lack thereof, can have on the course of human events. And let us draw inspiration from the brave souls who came before us, knowing that their legacy lives on in each of us, urging us to break the silence and stand on the side of justice. As we transition from historical examples to the present day, it becomes abundantly clear that the message encapsulated in Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote remains as relevant and urgent as ever. In the interconnected global landscape of the 21st century, the silence of our friends continues to echo loudly, perpetuating injustices that permeate every facet of society. Consider, for instance, the ongoing struggle for racial justice that has once again captured the world's attention in recent years. Despite the progress made since the days of the civil rights movements, systemic racism continues to pervade our institutions, disproportionately impacting marginalized communities and perpetuating cycles of poverty and oppression. And yet, in the face of this glaring reality, the silence of many of our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors, even our elected representatives, remains deafening. In the aftermath of high-profile incidents of police brutality and racial violence, far too many choose to avert their gaze, preferring the comfort of complacency to the discomfort of confronting the uncomfortable truths that lie at the heart of these issues. But as history has taught us time and again, silence is not neutrality. It is complicity. It is a tacit endorsement of the status quo, a betrayal of our shared humanity. Similarly, the gender inequality that persists in workplaces, educational institutions, and households around the world serves as another stark reminder of the consequences of silence. Despite decades of progress towards gender equality, women continue to face systemic barriers to advancement, earning less than their male counterparts and bearing the brunt of unpaid care work and domestic responsibilities. And yet, in the face of this entrenched inequality, the voices of our friends, the allies who could lend their support to the cause of gender equality, often remain conspicuously silent. But perhaps nowhere is the silence of our friends more pronounced than in the realm of environmental justice. As the specter of climate change looms ever larger on the horizon, threatening to irreversibly alter the fabric of life on Earth, the need for urgent action has never been clearer. And yet, in the face of this existential threat, the voices of denial and indifference continue to drown out the calls for action from those on the front lines of the climate crisis. Once again, the silence of our friends serves as a barrier to meaningful change, allowing the forces of greed and exploitation to continue unchecked. But amidst this bleak landscape, there are glimmers of hope. Across the globe, individuals and communities are rising up to break the silence and demand justice for all. From grassroots activists organizing protests and direct actions to ordinary citizens using their voices to advocate for change on social media, the tide is turning against the forces of oppression and injustice. So, my friends, as we confront the myriad challenges of the modern world, let us remember the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Let us refuse to be silent in the face of injustice, knowing that our collective voices have the power to shape the course of history. Let us stand in solidarity with those who have been marginalized and oppressed, knowing that our actions today will determine the world we leave for future generations. As we confront the imperative to speak out against injustice, it's essential to acknowledge the myriad challenges and barriers that often stand in our way. While the call to action may be clear, the path to raising our voices is fraught with obstacles, both internal and external, that threaten to silence us and perpetuate the cycle of oppression. One of the most pervasive challenges individuals face when considering whether to speak out is the weight of societal expectations and norms. From an early age, we are socialized to conform to the status quo, to avoid rocking the boat or challenging authority. This pressure to maintain the peace and avoid conflict can be particularly pronounced in cultures that prioritize harmony and conformity above all else, making it difficult for individuals to find the courage to speak truth to power. Moreover, the fear of repercussions looms large for those who dare to challenge the prevailing narratives of injustice. Whether it's the threat of losing one's job, facing social ostracism, or even risking physical harm, the consequences of speaking out can be severe and far-reaching. This fear is not unfounded. In many cases, whistleblowers and activists who have dared to raise their voices have faced retaliation from those in positions of power, further reinforcing the notion that silence is the safer option. But perhaps the most insidious barrier to speaking out is the discomfort of confronting difficult truths, the uncomfortable reality that compels us to examine our own complicity in systems of oppression. It's much easier to look the other way, to pretend that injustice doesn't exist or that it's someone else's problem to solve. Confronting our own privilege and complicity requires us to grapple with feelings of guilt, shame, and discomfort, emotions that many of us would prefer to avoid at all costs. Yet, despite these formidable barriers, the imperative to break the silence remains as urgent as ever. For every voice that is silenced, countless others continue to suffer in the shadows, their stories untold, their struggles unrecognized. And so, it falls to each of us to find the courage to speak out, to lend our voices to the chorus of dissent that refuses to be silenced by fear or apathy. But how do we overcome these challenges? How do we find the strength to raise our voices in the face of overwhelming adversity? First and foremost, we must recognize that speaking out is not a solitary act, but a collective endeavor. By finding allies and building solidarity with others who share our values and vision for a more just and equitable world, we can amplify our voices and create a network of support that strengthens us in our fight for justice. Secondly, we must acknowledge that change is often incremental and messy, requiring patience, perseverance, and resilience in the face of setbacks and obstacles. It's easy to become discouraged when progress is slow or when our efforts seem to yield little tangible results. But it's precisely in these moments of doubt and uncertainty that our commitment to justice is put to the test, reminding us that real change rarely happens overnight. Finally, we must never underestimate the power of our own actions, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem. Whether it's signing a petition, attending a protest, or simply having difficult conversations with friends and family, every act of resistance contributes to the larger tapestry of social change, nudging us ever closer to a more just and equitable world for all. So, my friends, as we confront the challenges and barriers to speaking out against injustice, let us remember the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Let us refuse to be silenced by fear or apathy, knowing that our voices have the power to change the world. Let us stand in solidarity with those who have been silenced and marginalized, knowing that our collective action is the key to unlocking a brighter future for generations to come. This segment explores the complexities individuals face when considering whether to speak out against injustice, emphasizing the societal pressures, fear of repercussions, and discomfort of confronting difficult truths. It provides strategies for overcoming these barriers while maintaining a motivational tone throughout. In the face of the formidable challenges and barriers that stand in our way, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged. But amidst the darkness, there is light. There is hope. For as Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." With these words as our guiding beacon, let us embark on a journey of empowerment and resilience, knowing that our voices have the power to ignite change and transform the world around us. Here are some strategies to help you find the courage to speak out and become agents of positive change in your communities. 1. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power, and arming yourself with information is the first step towards becoming an effective advocate for justice. Take the time to educate yourself about the issues that matter to you, whether it's racial injustice, gender inequality, or environmental degradation. Read books, watch documentaries, and engage with diverse perspectives to deepen your understanding of the complexities of these issues. 2. Find your voice. Each of us has a unique voice and perspective to contribute to the conversation. Whether you're an artist, a writer, a musician, or a community organizer, find creative ways to express yourself and amplify your message. Use your platform to raise awareness, spark dialogue, and inspire others to take action. 3. Build solidarity. Remember that you are not alone in your fight for justice. Seek out allies and build networks of solidarity with others who share your values and vision for a better world. Together we are stronger, and together we can create meaningful change that transcends individual efforts. 4. Practice self-care. Speaking out against injustice can be emotionally draining and mentally exhausting. It's essential to prioritize self-care and take breaks when needed to recharge and replenish your energy. Whether it's practicing mindfulness, spending time in nature, or engaging in activities that bring you joy, make self-care a priority in your advocacy work. 5. Take action. As the saying goes, be the change you wish to see in the world. Don't wait for others to lead the way. Take initiative and start making a difference in your own community. Whether it's volunteering with local organizations, organizing grassroots campaigns, or advocating for policy change, there are countless ways to get involved and make a meaningful impact. 6. Stay resilient. Change doesn't happen overnight, and setbacks are inevitable along the way. But it's essential to stay resilient in the face of adversity and keep pushing forward, knowing that every small victory brings us one step closer to our ultimate goal. Draw strength from the struggles of those who came before us, and let their resilience inspire you to persevere in your own journey for justice. Number 7. Celebrate progress. Finally, don't forget to celebrate the progress you've made along the way. Whether it's a successful campaign, a meaningful conversation with a loved one, or a small act of solidarity, take the time to acknowledge and celebrate your achievements, no matter how small they may seem. These moments of celebration serve as reminders of the impact of your actions and fuel your motivation to continue fighting for a better world. So, my friends, as we navigate the challenges and obstacles that stand in our way, let us remember that we are not powerless. We have the power to create change, to shape the world according to our values and aspirations. Let us embrace our collective power and stand in solidarity with one another, knowing that together we can build a future where justice, equality, and compassion reign supreme. As we draw to a close on our journey through the profound wisdom encapsulated in Martin Luther King Jr.'s timeless quote, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Let us reflect on the transformative power of our voices and the imperative to break the silence in the face of injustice. Throughout history, we have witnessed the profound impact that silence, whether complicit or complacent, can have on the course of human events. We have seen how the silence of our friends has perpetuated oppression and inequality, allowing injustices to fester and thrive in the shadows. And yet, we have also borne witness to the transformative potential of speaking out, of raising our voices in solidarity with those who have been silenced and marginalized, of standing on the side of justice even when it is uncomfortable or unpopular. As we navigate the complexities of the modern world, let us remember that our voices matter. Whether we are speaking out against racial injustice, gender inequality, environmental degradation, or any other form of oppression, each of us has the power to effect change in our own communities and beyond. By breaking the silence and lending our voices to the chorus of dissent, we can build a future where justice, equality, and compassion reign supreme. But let us also recognize that the journey towards justice is not easy. It requires courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment in the face of adversity. It requires us to confront uncomfortable truths, to challenge the prevailing narratives of oppression, and to stand firm in our conviction that a better world is possible. So, my friends, as we conclude our exploration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s profound words, let us take them to heart and let them guide us in our ongoing quest for justice. Let us refuse to be silenced by fear or apathy, knowing that our voices have the power to change the world. And let us stand in solidarity with those who have been silenced and marginalized, knowing that together we can create a future where all are treated with dignity, respect, and compassion. The journey towards justice may be long and arduous, but it is a journey worth taking. Let us embark on this journey together, knowing that our collective efforts have the power to transform the world and leave a lasting legacy of hope, compassion, and justice for generations to come. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and may we continue to speak out, stand up, and strive for a world where the silence of our friends is replaced by the resounding chorus of justice and equality for all.